Hello, money queens and listeners. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. Let's meet the women behind the millionaires, the women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, the wealth advisor, best-selling author, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. And I'm so excited to have Teri DiGrande with us. She is an owner of State Farm in Morristown, New Jersey. She's been in the insurance industry for more than 35 years, but wanted to become an entrepreneur, have her own agency in 2010, which we're going to get into that because I'm excited to hear about this journey that she's been on, a very successful journey. Her passion has always been helping families recover from the unexpected, and her favorite motto is enter as strangers and leave as friends. So you can tell right away where her heart is with her business, and she wants to create those long-lasting relationships with her clients because it's a win-win for everybody there, right? That is her credit to her success. So thank you so much, Teri, for being with us here on Women Behind the Millions.
Thank you, Jess. So nice to see you.
It's so good to see you too. I cannot wait to hear about your business. So you've had a business 22 years now. You started in 2010, which let's think back to
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. It has been, you started right after a recession, one of the hardest times during our economy, the Great Recession. We had the market crisis, the mortgage, housing, everything was tanking. People were getting laid off. What was the moment when you realized you wanted to make the switch and open up your own agency?
Well, I started at State Farm back in the early 90s, actually. And so, having been through so many different positions within the company, having worked in agency management before, I thought, this is easy. I can do this. I can run my own business. And so I had interviewed a time or two before this, actually 2 times before this, and I was not selected. And so
Wow.
reason that I was told I was not selected is because I didn't have the passion behind it. And,
Really? Oh,
right. And so, but at that time they were probably right? I wasn't mature enough and ready to run my own business. And I'm still, every day we struggle to run our own business, right? There's so many facets. There's leadership and management and being your CEO and being a team member, et cetera. So that's, I decided probably in 2008, 2009, I wanted to do this. I thought I could do it. I thought I'd be great at it. And it's been it's been challenging, but it's the best decision I ever made.
and you're married. You have 2 beautiful daughters. Did you have the support of your husband? Was he a part of all those conversations?
Well, you can't do it without the support, right? Gratefully, thank God. My husband is, everybody calls him the saint because he puts up with me and all that. Yeah, he's amazing. My 2 daughters, I'll never forget the day I opened my agency. That night I came home and I was so excited. It was my first opening day. And they were all dressed in State Farm gear. They had the whole house decorated in State Farm gear. And they were all just standing there hugging and big, family hug style. And I still get chills even thinking about that. Yeah.
How old were your daughters when you opened?
Oh gosh, 12 years ago. So my oldest is now 27 and my baby is 20 years old. So yeah. And that was one of the reasons that, like many of us, we decided to open our own business too, because my 27-year-old, I was so focused on a career.
Mm-hmm.
She'll remind me, I missed quite a few birthdays, being out on the road and traveling for business. And then my youngest was born and I didn't want to do that. They're 6.5 years apart. Okay. I really wanted to be more of a part of both of their lives, but this enabled me to make that decision as hard as it was. But
It's amazing how, as working moms, the kids are part of every decision we make with our career, with our businesses. And I remember I missed my daughter's first birthday, so I can relate to that. And it tore me apart. But my husband, who does shift work, he misses holidays, birthdays on a regular basis. I'm like, but for me, it's like I left my heart behind when I went on this business trip. I
Yes.
completely understand why you would want to do that and to make up for lost time, maybe even.
Yeah, I think it's a mom thing, right? It's a woman thing, right? We just they're our children, they're our babies, you know. We want to be
They are.
thing.
And
So
then you had another baby starting your agency, your business baby, we'll call it. How was the start of that? Was it always growing, always building and building? What was it like in the early days?
yeah, no, I mean, like many of us, we struggle in our first several years, and they say if you don't make it 5 years, you're not going to make it. I think I was telling you earlier, I had my first year in business. I went into debt. I went into six-figure debt on about $124,000, and I cried every single day. I came home and cried. I cried the minute I walked in the office, and it was still a real struggle, particularly the first 3.5 years financially. Um, and so about 2 months, I opened in July, about 2, 3 months after that, the company, because it was 2010 and the economy was kind of crashing at that time, State Farm really, they put the squeeze on us in terms of what we could and couldn't write for property and casualty.
Okay.
And so it became more difficult to grow the business. And we had to find other ways, right? So if I couldn't write auto because we weren't competitive, I had to find something else to write. And maybe that was business insurance or commercial vehicles, whatever that was. But it was a real struggle for the first 3 years. And my accountant told me, you better close this business. You're not going to make it and you're going to lose everything. And I would do that. This was going back to the comments I received earlier in my career. This was my passion. This is where I want to be, and this is where I'm meant to be. And so fast forward here today, and we're doing great. I've got the best team and supporting my family, and I do it because I love my clients, and I think that's where the motto comes from, right? Enter as strangers, leave as friends. So that's kind of where the motto came from.
It comes across right away, Teri. But what I keep hearing from your story is no matter what the rejection was, no matter what the people were telling you to do, you trusted your gut, your heart, and you push through. I mean, for somebody, an accountant, somebody that you lean on for advice to tell you need to shut your doors, that must have been an insane moment for you mentally.
Well, gosh, yeah. I mean, and I would not tell my husband how much debt I was in. So this was all just between my accountant and I. It was like, you're not going to make it. So finally, about 3 years later, I was embarrassed to tell him because, I've been in insurance so long. Why can't I make this work? And being a leader, being a CEO, being a mom, and trying to do everything at once. It was a matter of it all coming together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was embarrassed. And one night I had to sit down with him and just say, here's the issues. Let's put together a plan. And he took it great, thank God. And he said, let's consolidate our debt and don't worry about it. We'll get you out of this. And within a year and a half, I believe it was like 18 months later, I was out of debt and took care of everything. And yeah, we definitely made some hard decisions, right? But I wouldn't have done it any other way, honestly.
Yes. And that shows how much he believes in you that despite being in debt, he knew you were going to pull through it. And sometimes we just need to have those vulnerable moments with somebody else so that, I mean, even myself, you get to that point where you believe you can do it, but when you've had bad things happen along the way in these setbacks, you get to where like, can I really do this? But then to have your spouse step up and say, we've got this. It's that win that you needed.
Right.
To get you going again.
Right. I mean,
Amazing.
Nobody understands better than you, right? Look what you've achieved. But yeah, it's so hard. It's hard to sort of juggle everything at one time. And that took a little bit of realization on my part. I really thought I was going to be an amazing, manager, leader, everything, you name it. And I still struggle to this day. I mean, I look to folks like you, and your books and your mentorship to learn from that.
Oh, same. Always looking to other people, looking to you. I've been so successful. And that's why we're having these conversations. That's why we started the podcast, Women Behind the Millions, because we go on social media, we see the nice cars, the vacations, the beautiful houses, but we don't see us crying in the closets and the off hours or wanting to scream
That's right.
Or why do my kids have to get sick the exact moment I'm about to be on air or meet with a new client?
It's so true. It happens all the time. It does.
And I love how you said finding your way to make it all work. Like all of a sudden you're stepping into this unknown new territory for you. And there's so much growth. We're still learning and growing, just as you said, and figure out how am I going to get this all to work? What does that even look like? And so it's amazing having women like you so that I can learn. I have young kids. How do you do it? So I don't just figure it all out on my own.
Yeah, I still don't know. I really don't know. Honest to goodness, I idolize single moms because I could not do it without the support of my spouse. We definitely take on different roles in the household, whether that's financially or emotionally. You've got to have that balance. There's no other way around it. Or on the flip side, I learned not to worry about the mess on the floor, right? When my children were young, I used to stress out about, oh my gosh, pick up the toys and this and that. And I didn't have a cleaning lady. I was the cleaning lady, right? So I learned to just forgo some of those things. And you know what? Tonight we're going to have pancakes for dinner instead of making, sometimes you're just going to have to forgo some things for your mental health.
That's funny you said that. We are doing breakfast for dinner tonight on my household.
It's the best. It's more like a treat, right?
I know. Like, sit on those pancakes. What do you want, kids? Yes, learning to ignore the crumbs and the appearance. I think for me, it's always been, what is the appearance? Because my mom, German, she is so clean, organized. She cleans out her cabinets probably twice a year. Maybe the last decade, I've cleaned them out once or twice. You have to prioritize.
Excellently. If I want to go to my daughter's soccer game, then this is not getting done, and I have to do X, Y, and Z to get there, right? And isn't that why we all do what we do, right? We do it for our families, for our children, and for our own mental health, if for nothing else.
True. Yes, I've learned this year everything can wait a day. There's no task for the most part that can't wait 24 hours.
That's a hard lesson to learn. That is a really hard lesson to learn.
And like 24 hours, it's okay if something gets back in 24 hours and such. But let's go into really, as we're building wealth, we're building a business, which is an asset as well. Or even built our house. Now we're buying a house. There are always things, and this is when you come into play. There's always risks out there that can jeopardize our wealth, our peace of mind. Whether you're driving and you get hit in an accident, somebody falls in your house, somebody falls at your work. And I'm thinking of that because I'm using Teri and our company for our workers' comp policy, which I have to go into the mailbox and see if it's come in today. How do you come into play when you're looking at, here I am, I'm starting to really build wealth and assets. What do I need to be looking out for?
That's a great question, Jess, because, when we talk with our customers about just a simple auto insurance policy, right? People base it on premium. Oh, I don't want to pay more than this X amount of dollars. You really have to look at your assets, because if you get sued, you can lose everything you've worked so hard to grow. And in one single accident, you're one phone call away from tragedy and losing it all.
Very scary. And we've seen it happen. I've had clients happen and it's a freak accident. Or I remember one, she blacked out, doesn't even recall the accident.
Oh,
no idea. But then there was a pending lawsuit, or children are now driving. Or your parents who shouldn't be driving anymore, but you haven't taken their driver's license from them yet. They're driving. And now you have the most money you've ever had. How are we protecting it? So what is it like going through the process with you and figuring out what are the things that I'm not thinking about? Maybe I don't want to think about getting into an accident or my husband passing away. Certain things. What is it like working with you, Teri?
So I'd like to think, listen, we all have to share our value statement, right? We all have a different value statement. But when you call a 1-800 number, they don't really go into the different coverages that you have and the reasons why. And oftentimes I'll sit with a customer and review what they currently have. And we'll explain, this is what your liability means. This is what you have. Now let's talk about your assets. And they don't put the two and two together. Why do you care, where I work? And why do you care how much money I make? And well, because it's my job to protect your assets and the liabilities that come along with that. And that could be an auto accident. That could just be a slip and fall, whether an invited guest or uninvited guest comes to your house, right? Somebody walking past the house slips and falls, they're going to sue the homeowner. So it does not have to be anything. Obviously, we buy insurance because of the unknown risk. But again, talking about just protecting everything from A to Z. I go through the entire policy with them, ensure they understand it. And I have to tell you, 99% of the time, they said, well, I did not know that. I didn't know that I needed that. I didn't know I didn't have that. Or I don't need that coverage, vice versa.
Yes, it kind of goes into that faux pas of talking about money, right? We don't talk about money. We don't talk about lawsuits. We don't talk about the possibility of being sued. And we are in a country that there are a lot of lawsuits. We'll be honest about that. You had to protect yourself. Growing up, my father, he's been an advisor for 40 years. But did I hear them talking about insurance? We talked about money here and there, but then you go to insurance, really not talking about it much besides home and auto, right? I got my driver's license. I have to get an automobile insurance policy.
Well, yeah. And I mean, listen, auto insurance is mandatory in most states, right? If not all states, I'm not sure. But we buy auto insurance. We have to buy home insurance to protect the risk of fire. And because the mortgagee tells us. But then there's that flip side, what you guys do, in terms of protecting your paycheck, and you're your biggest asset. When I say to the customer, what is your biggest asset? What are your greatest assets? You're still in my house, my car, my boat. I love my boat. And they're insuring everything, but they're not insuring themselves.
Their ability to earn an income.
Exactly. And if you were an ATM machine, or if your husband was an ATM machine, wouldn't you insure that? You absolutely would.
You would protect it, right? You put it in a locked room, protect
bubble wrap, right? You would
chain it up.
Exactly what a life insurance policy is, and financial planning for those issues, right? For those unknowns, and we don't know what's coming in the future. But I will tell you, unfortunately we are all going to pass away at some time, but we don't know if we're going to have an auto accident, and we don't know if we're ever going to have a fire in our house. But that is one thing we do know. We should be protecting our paychecks and our ability to earn that income, whether it's disability insurance, financial planning. Make sure you have a plan in place for those you love.
Yes, of course. What about as a business owner? Let's talk to the women business owners who are listening right now, watching this. What are some things they need to think about? And you're going to be speaking to all of our advisors at the Women's Wealth Boutique in the next 2 weeks about this. Let's say now I'm opening up my doors as a business. What do I need to be thinking about when it comes to the risks and the insurance?
Well, similarly, right? You're opening up a business that maybe it's an LLC, maybe it's an incorporation or an S corp, et cetera. You also need to protect against bodily injury, physical damage. There's many facets of business insurance. So, I mean, there's general liability. It could be just a basic business policy, what we would call. But then what about your employees? You've got to worry about protecting your employees and lawsuits against them, or perhaps yourself, right? So there's insurance against discrimination. There's so many facets of it. So we've got to understand your business. My job is to get to know you, get to understand what your business is and what your risks are and how I can protect.
Oh, yeah, you're bringing up a lot of things. So we hear E&O insurance for doctors, attorneys, and us as advisors, we have E&O insurance. We start to hear about that. And I have my policy to review. I rent office space, so then I need to protect what's in the office.
Exactly.
Like technology, the computers, things like that. Because you've heard horror stories of that, right? There's a fire and now they don't have the money to rebuild, or all the money's gone, or maybe they bought it on debt.
That's right. Maybe you're financing your business, but again, one phone call, you can lose everything, right? You're one phone call away from a tragedy is what I always think. And that's kind of scary to think, right? Today, everything's great, but tomorrow, and think about those that are now working from home, because that brings up a whole different conversation. What do we need to protect that's different, that's not insured under your homeowner's policy, right?
Sure. That is a whole new dynamic that we're seeing. Even as we're a virtual team, we're in all different states. That is a great point to that. And
And
as
that's
you,
just an endorsement that you add to your homeowner's policy, or maybe it is a business office policy, but you get business and residence credit for being, because you want, God forbid, you have a claim, maybe it's a pipe burst or vandalism or that, whatever that might be. Your homeowners often doesn't cover your business stuff, right? So your inventory, your computers that you use for business.
yes, good points. Inventory, I didn't even think of that. Good on a services kind of relationship or business
That's right.
and items. How about, I want to talk a little bit about key employee insurance, or let's say you're in a partnership and you buy insurance on each other. I've seen this happen a few different times with relationships, not with our own business, but with friends, and two people enter a business together, they're partners, and the one passes away. What happens to the business then?
I've got a perfect situation. A friend down the street, her husband passed away and did not have life insurance. And he owned a huge roofing company.
Wow.
Guess who's in charge of the roofing company right now? The wife, who knew nothing about roofing, nothing about anything, right? And his partner, does he really want her involved in something she knows nothing about?
Yeah.
You have to think, especially if there's a partnership, buying insurance on one another so they can buy one another out in the event of an early passing, premature passing of one of the partners. So we do that. Again, it's just understanding the business, the value of the business. But this poor woman, she's trying to help. And I feel awful for them because they didn't plan. And she's bitter about his lack of planning, right? Because she's like, why didn't he put together a plan for me in the event that this happened? Because I know nothing about roofing. And here she is trying to maintain a business for her, just her standard of living. She's got a 12-year-old son.
Oh, wow.
Right?
And you're processing, you're grieving, and now you have to figure out how to run a business and get along with a partner that you never expected to have to deal with.
He doesn't want to deal with her. He's like, well, she knows nothing about how, John used to run that business. So yeah, it's conversations that people often don't think, hey, it'll never be me. But it's never going to happen to me happens, that's why we plan ahead.
Yes. I remember sitting on a plane talking with a woman, and she was going on vacation with her grandchildren. She said her son had passed away, and the children were young. Some were in college, some weren't even in college yet. No life insurance, nothing. And they had to move. The kids had to leave college, go to cheaper colleges, universities. She goes, the kids, is exactly what you said, are bitter. They resent their father because they thought, if he loved us so much, why didn't he plan for something like this to happen? And it's horrible. But when you think of grief, grieving is in itself is a selfish emotion because we're viewing how sad we are losing this person. So it's not selfish in a bad way. It's just how grief is naturally to us, right? We're viewing how upset and sad and heartbroken we are. So we don't usually think about things beyond just that relationship and our lost.
That's unfortunate, but you're absolutely right. A good friend just gave me a great piece of advice, and she said, well, if you can't afford the coverage, you can't afford the problem.
Wow.
Right? Think about that. I can't afford life insurance. I can't afford life insurance. Well, when that person passes, or your moneymaker or your ATM, is no longer there for you, you certainly can't afford not having the coverage, right? You can't afford that problem, if you will.
Yes, it's very true. And coming back to the priorities. So it's more than just, what is that slogan? 20 minutes could save you 20%. What?
Yeah, close, right? Good. I'm glad.
I know those are more can save you 20%.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm glad you don't remember.
But how can you fit your life into a 10, 20-minute phone call or your business into that? And you're just looking at what's the cheapest price, but the cheapest price isn't what's going to protect our money. When you look at millionaires, they're not going with the cheapest, they're going with value. What is the value behind it? What are they getting? And how are they protecting the wealth that they've worked so hard to build and create?
Exactly. That you can lose in a heartbeat, right? And it's interesting to me, some folks will have 2022, a Mercedes, right? The greatest brand of Mercedes, but they'll call that, oh, I just need quick coverage. I just need the basics. No, you just spent time. You didn't shop for a Hyundai. You shopped for a Mercedes for a reason. You wanted value. You wanted quality. And so we've got to protect that.
Yes, we do. Very true. How can people find you, Teri?
So my website is direct. It's www.teridigrande.com. That's TeriDigrande.com. And pardon?
I said amazing.
Oh, yeah. Nice and easy, right? And my email is Teri@TeriDigrande.com. So nice and easy. I'm always open. If you don't have the coverage, I'm open to helping you with it, whether or not it's with me. It doesn't matter. I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy, even if you've got the greatest coverage, I will tell you to stick with that greatest coverage.
You go.
Not make sense, but at least you have a second set of eyes looking at it,
It's honesty, and I have to say, the integrity behind Teri and our team as well, because we've worked with all of the team. Very good to have a conversation with her, because especially when there's insurance, we don't know what we don't know. And if I just could encourage one person who's listening to help protect their wealth. And it doesn't mean you have to wait until you have wealth. As you're building it, start protecting it, because she said, you're one phone call away from tragedy happening. We don't want that to dismantle everything that you've worked so hard for.
Perfectly said. Young couples, the future, you're going to have children, you're going to buy a house. You need to protect that future of your family as well.
Yes. So thank you very, very much, Teri, for being on here. Thank you.
Thank you,
all
Jess.
you listening and watching Women Behind the Millions. Go get protected, ladies. Get protected. If we learned one thing, go and make sure that your risks, we've managed them, we've neutralized them, we're protected against them. So thank you, Teri.
Thank you, Jess.